I've been with Rust-Oleum now for about 3 years. Prior to that, another manufacturer for about 11 years, and as a contractor and doing installations since 1996-ish, somewhere around there. So I've been doing this for about 30 years with it, as far as, and that's what I try to bring into what we go through and show in our presentation. So it's informal, and with this setting, it's take part, participate. The more you participate, the more you're going to learn. So with this, a more of intimate type setting, as far as we have more hands-on availability. So ask questions as we go through. You know, when I say somebody want to take this and try it, do it. Okay, you're going to leave here with a lot more knowledge because you did it and you're going to remember it. Versus if you just stand back and listen to me, you're only going to retain a small percentage. It's just it's common fact that if you participate, you'll learn more.
We're going to be going through a multitude of different systems here. Right here is all going to be Polyurea, Flake, Silica, and decorative quartz. Here will be the...
we're going to do fast cure.
Yeah, fast cure right here with epoxy. And then over there where you see those colored slabs, that's where we're going to be doing our metallics. We'll also show neat systems, concrete patch and repair over there. Okay, as I said earlier, we're going to be going over the agenda. First is going to be the one-day systems, which are all going to be broadcasted. Quarter-inch flake, decorative quartz, silica quartz over there, or silica sand, I should say, and then eighth-inch flake. Those three are going to be the Polyurea 350. That is the material that a lot of guys are doing in and out to bang out one-day garages, as well as this right here, which is the fast cure epoxy. And then we're going to coat it with a polyaspartic. And then we're also going to be going over proper surface preparation, patch and repair. The patch and repair is going to be at that table over there. You're going to see a lot of cool stuff. We're going to be going over primers, base coats, system comparisons, as well as to choose which base coat is more suitable for the project, as well as the top coats and best practices and keys to successful installs.
All right, so we're going to start putting on the product, and then we will start, and then once we put it down, because we're trying to get a lot of things moving, so we're going to put down the products, and then we'll talk about them. We're going to be able to go through and say, okay, this is what we used, because we want to make sure it starts drying to show you how to do a one-day floor. Okay? All right? Okay.
And before we put any coatings down, it's also very important to acetone wipe your floor just to make sure it's getting rid of any contaminants as well. Never denatured, just acetone denatured. It's too dirty and it leaves some sediment behind.
So yeah, we recommend acetone just because it's a very quick solvent and doesn't leave any residue behind. Usually if like you're getting into xylene or some other slower solvents, if you're not getting a high enough temperature, it might linger on the surface, which can cause surface defects. So it's just a quick solvent. It's mostly will do with most of what we need to do for the day. And it's simple to have one solvent on the site so you're not kind of mixing between things.
Yeah.
So acetone is always recommended
for our systems, yes. Yeah. It's pretty much universal.
Okay. How about xylo? Xylo is not good.
No, we do not want xylene on xylol on. Yeah.
Okay.
Now you can use it for the epoxies, but if you you could also use the acetone. So you might as well just stick with the acetone. Yeah. And the xylene can be too hot, meaning it could actually start melting and breaking down some of the epoxies when they're not cured. Okay.
So the other thing we like to do to start out is pre-charging the roller cover.
Yeah.
So in your puddle, so that you're not pulling away from any of your material when you're actually going through it.
Okay, I'm going to demo this real quick, and then you guys can do the next next application. What we're using is a gauge squeegee. It actually has notches on the bottom to help put it down to the right thickness. This is a 5 to 7 mil. Okay. Now the mils is thousandths of an inch, so it's very thin. When you're going to use it, make sure you keep the blade straight, so to pull on a 45-degree angle, and put pressure on it. If you're doing a big floor, I like to push my squeegee, and you'd be wearing spikes so you're walking back over the material. But in this case, I'm going to pull it, okay? And I'm going to get my edges first.
So again, the main job of the squeegee guy is to get it out on the floor nice and mostly even. Your roller cover guy is going to come back and even everything out before you flake it. So you don't want to have like a giant, you know, this stuff. On a normal day, you got about 20, 25 minutes of work time on the floor once you get it out. But like in mass, it can start to take off on you. So you want to make sure you're working diligently, you know, at least 2 or 3 people working, you know, one person mixing, one person squeegeeing, and then.
Yeah, this is a polyurea, and this has to be applied thinner than epoxy. So if you're wondering, well, that's pretty thin using 5 to 7 mils. This product works a little bit differently. I'm going to explain that to you once we get it all down on the floor.
And the great thing about this product is you're getting a lot of square footage out of a 3-gallon kit. Minimum, you're getting about 675 square feet.
Oh, okay.
And then the Poly 350 does come in 3 different speeds, so that's more on ambient temperature curing.
Yeah.
So less than 50, between 50 and 70, or 70 and above.
Okay.
So to give you a similar scrape time, which should be 2.5, 3 hours, you know, 2 to 3 hours. So you're getting the same feel no matter what the outside temperature is. So, and we'll talk a lot more about that during the presentation, but we're just getting these down so that we can put another coat on before lunch.
Now, this is a product you would use if you were trying to do a 1-day floor, okay? We're going to show you a couple of the options of material. Now, this one I'm putting on thicker because I'm going to throw silica into this, and silica quartz. Okay, so now I'm doing this. I'm actually going to sweep back and forth, get my corners. Now I'm always pushing the puddle, okay? So I'm going across and I'm sweeping it across. Pull back that portion. All right, somebody want to do this? Take this over. Come on. Oop. Now you got to put pressure down and you got to start moving pretty quickly because it's starting to set up.
And again, if we need to mix another batch, we can do that too. But someone can
do it more in a sweeping motion.
I just
pulling it back and forth,
hanging over just in case it wants to drip, but I just wait out. So what we're going to do while he's doing that is we're going to broadcast.
And now you can start rolling this way.
Some flake. So we'll, and you know, for everyone that's done flake, it's pretty straightforward. You don't want to be throwing it at the floor because you can create ripples, things like that. You always want to throw it up and let it fall, because with this we're also doing broadcaster rejection. So it's not like a sparse one where you'd be putting, you know, a little bit here and trying to match that throughout the floor. We're just going to fully broadcast the floor. So we don't want to have any spots that don't have.
And you can also push it.
So we're just going to try and fill all this up, and then it'll stack. And then in a couple hours, we'll come back and we'll scrape it, and then we'll put a grout coat over it. So, and then this is the 1/4-inch flake, so a little bit bigger. There are some other blends you can get. 1/8 inch is a little smaller. There's some hybrid blends that give you a smoother look because it's a mixture of the 1/4 and the 1/8 inch flake. But pretty much that's what we're going to do, and we'll just, anytime you see a wet spot, you want to make sure you put some more flake on it.
You go on that side and push that puddle. No, stay on that side. Okay. Yeah. And then put the blade on the very edge. A little bit further. See that little puddle you left?
And then you might use about a quarter pound or so per square foot. For when we get to the silica broadcast, we're going to use about a 1/2 pound per square foot, which will be a 50-pound bag for 100 square feet. So, and we'll talk about
he'll get the rest of it with the roller.
Divide it up.
Okay.
So any of these wet spots, you want to make sure you're filling with flake, because you don't want to see any bare spots, especially with this Poly 350. It's not UV stable, so you need to bury it in a flake or a more UV stable kind of when we grout coat it. Put the coat over the top of this, then we'll be able to bury that, and then you'll have a good resistant floor. So that's what you do, and you'd leave it alone for the next couple hours, and we'll come back and scrape and vacuum. Now we're going to switch to our colored quartz. So this is a decorative.
4 hours?
Like 3 hours.
3 hours?
This might be sooner. Yep. So once you can walk on it, and it's not, you're not indenting or anything like that, then you can scrape it and either and then grout coat it.
Okay.
So we'll show that right before lunch.
Okay.
That's why we're doing this all now before the presentation. But they're going to give me the decorative quartz. So this might be, it's a higher use environment. Could be, we've spec'd it for like grocery entrances or things like that. The decorative quartz, it stacks very nicely. This flake, if you have too much, it'll just go at a different angle. This stacks very neatly on top of itself, creates a good wear layer. This is the decorative one, which will be a little more than just the regular silica. That would be more of an industrial environment. Yes. So with that, we'll broadcast it and then we'll put a pigmented coat over the top of it. Or we'll do a second. We're going to show a second. I'm going to need more than that. But we're going to need more. But yeah, so this is a decorative.
This one sometimes we call it a seamless.
Seamless?
Seamless floor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Ceramic.
Yeah, so this, we're going to do the same thing. We're just trying to, broadcast the rejection. And then we're going to do, again, the same thing.
Pretty much the same system as
Yep,
this, right?
yep. No, you'd be, this is,
The same process.
yep, the same process as the flake. Again, you're going to bury it. You're going to use about 1/2 pound per square foot. Again, you want to make sure you don't leave any open spots. And then we're pretty much doing the same thing. This one we did in 8 to 12 mils. So, you know, some specs might call for 16, especially like heavy traffic environments or like vehicle traffic, heavy fork trucks. Washrooms. You could use that in washrooms as well for kind of a little bit of anti-slip. We're going to show 2 coats of the aggregate, which will build up and give you a high profile finish. So the other part with this and these floors is, we'll talk a little bit later about it, but we do have a sampling department for like bigger jobs where you can get the owner's approval of the recommended system and have them sign off on it so that it helps save you. When they're like, oh, it doesn't slip enough, or it's, you know, I didn't approve this, and then you flip the panel over and say, here, you signed the back, you approve, this is what you get. If you need more, then we'll put in a change order, and but this floor and this floor will be exactly the same broadcast. One's just, again, more decorative, where we'll do a clear, your polyaspartic on top of this to either put a second layer or grout it. Versus this one would be all pigmented through like every single layer. Yep. So again, you're just throwing it out like you're feeding the chickens. Or again, salt and pepper. Just looking for any wet spots. You don't want to see anything. You are gonna, you know, as you get better at it, you'll know exactly how much it needs. At the beginning, you'll use a little bit more material just to get the feel of it. Yep, and we're just going to sweep back and then put on the next coat. So these ones are a little simpler. You don't need to scrape, but it's just a heavier duty material. It's a great product. And it might take a couple minutes too for the resin to soak up as it stacks. So let's put it on the ground.
Okay.
Because it does have to be completely covered. Some call it beached. Some call it beach, but you want to throw that silica to coverage. Otherwise, you can wind up having a section that is smoother, okay, on the floor, but it's got to be a nice, even application.
Yeah, so you'll get a different texture, and that could be, especially if you're not putting a second coat, or if you do end up having those, and you're already going to do a second coat, that'll kind of cover it up a little bit, because you'll just throw a little bit more in that area the next day, or the next time you put your coat on.
Yeah. So we were moving pretty quickly because we were working with the Poly 350, and we made a large batch. When you're actually on a job, you're going to make a smaller batches that's controllable so that you're not sitting there trying to hurry up and it's already starting to get really sticky.
You do a section of 10 by 10, right?
Yep.
And the garage has 4 sections.
Correct.
So can I go section by section?
Yes,
and
you want to.
How do I have to do the next section?
Actually, I'm going to be talking about that, but yes, you will do it section by section. The largest mix that, the average mix that garage guys will make of this is 3 quarts. That they don't do more than 3 quarts. And they'll make 3 quarts so that they're able to control and work with it before it starts getting sticky. And I'll talk about how we blend them in, okay? But we're going to switch gears now. This was a polyurea, Okay. Now we're going to switch to a fast cure epoxy because some people say, I don't like using the Polyurea. I'm going to explain the benefits of it though, but some people just they can't handle it. It's just too much. It's too fast. And they prefer something that's a little bit slower. So we also have an epoxy that's going to give you a little bit extra time. It's a little bit different application. Your coverage is thicker, so you have to apply it thicker than you do the Polyurea. And I'll explain why once we get to the presentation.
You're good, Matt.
But the application of the fast cure epoxy we're going to do right here. And then next to it, we'll use our regular standard cure epoxy on these two next ones. All resinous coatings are they're from every manufacturer. They were designed for interior. Now the industry is pushing these systems more and more outside. We never promote exterior applications. We know they work, but there are some vulnerabilities to all resinous coatings outside because they're non-breathable.
Pigmented.
There's a ways around it that help promote that so that it could overcome that. But there's two things that are attacking a resinous coating outside. Moisture coming from below the concrete and the UV.
That gray because
we got the UV taken care of with our UV stable polyaspartic, but the base coat then still is not UV resistant, which is going to be the Polyurea or the epoxy. Some companies promote using a polyaspartic on the directed concrete, but they don't have as good of adhesion, anywhere near as good as adhesion as a Polyurea or the epoxy. Okay, polyaspartic is really not designed for that directed concrete application. We do have one which we have designed that way, but it's a lot lower solids so that it can penetrate better. But the high solid polyaspartics, which are used as the top coats, they can't penetrate as well as a lower solids or an epoxy or the Polyurea. Did I answer your question? Can it be done? Sure. Should it be done? That's sometimes the question. Okay, so we're switching over right now. We're going to use our fast cure epoxy.
We got a clear only. I didn't want to mix in.
Okay, if we add pigment to it, we're going to slow it down, but that's all right because we're not going to scrape it today. We'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you add pigment to your fast cure, you slow it down.
I was thinking, because just like UHS, we could just do, we could do clear since we're going to be.
Yeah, you know what? Just put it down in clear.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, no pigment. Yeah, if you add pigment to it, it slows it down to 5 hours. Este aquí vas a poder limpiarlo y sacar toda la sílica que no se pegó en más o menos en esta temperatura 1 hora y media hasta 2. Okay? Pero tenemos mezcla del verano. Okay? Tenemos también para el winter y también otro, el nombre es Arctic. Es cuando está más frío y el Arctic cuando está muy frío.
El catalizador del
está en un kit completo y se dice el summer, el winter y el Arctic. Okay, so we have 3 different kits, and I'm going to get into that. It all depends on the temperature range. No, ya viene. Yeah, todo el tiempo va a ser el mismo, 1 a 2. He asks, is the catalyst, do you increase the amount? No, it's always a 1 to 2 with the Polyurea. Una parte de B, I'm sorry, una parte de A 2 partes de B. El B con el Polyurea es la parte que tiene el color y también dice si va a ser para cuando está caliente o frío. Okay. So yeah, the Polyurea is backwards. It's a 1 part A to 2 parts B, and the B is the pigmented side, and that's what determines how fast it is. Okay, not the B. It's not the same as epoxies. With epoxies, it's flipped.
So the B is 2 to A1.
Correct. With the Polyurea. Yeah, the Polyurea.
So again, every kit that you get, I'd take a look at it and make sure you know which side's the big side. So. And
we also have, tenemos todos los papeles de técnicos en español también para ustedes.
And those are on the flash drive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, todos los documentos están en español. Okay, so now this is the Fast Cure Epoxy. The Fast Cure Epoxy is our PLE 100 Fast Cure. And this one here, when it's in mass, it's really fast. Take this and dump it out of the pail right away. When I'm using this, I like to just dump this one out completely. Because when you get it out of mass, it slows it down. When you have an epoxy in mass, it takes off really fast. And this one will actually get so hot, it can melt the plastic. Okay? That's unlike the polyurea. Yep, 8 to 12. Okay. All right.
Parece se ocupa una espátula especial.
¿Perdón?
No, es la misma.
Es la misma para todo.
Oh, esa aquí es el 8 a 12. Okay. Porque es epóxico. I'm using the 8 to 12 because this is an epoxy. Yeah, whereas the polyaspartic, I'm putting that down at using a 5 to 7 for my flake.
I hope I made enough.
I think we have enough.
Yeah, I made like 40 ounces.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Let's charge that up.
¿Cuánto rinde esa por pie cuadrado?
¿Tiempo para aplicar?
Cantidad.
Oh, puedes comprarlo de 3 y de 15.
No, pero para pie cuadrado, ¿cuánto ocupa?
Para cubrir un galón, vas a aplicarlo más o menos a 100 pies o 150. Un galón. Todo depende de cómo lo vas a usar. Porque lo puedes aplicar más delgado, pero depende del sistema que vas a aplicar. Yeah, so the coverage on this is going to be anywhere from 100 to about 150. In this case, I'm applying this at about
150.
About 150. This is 2 a 1. Yeah, this is a 2 to 1. Dos partes de A, una parte de B.
And what's the open time usually?
This one here, as far as our packaging says 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's what if you have it in mass. That's why I said get it on the floor and spread it out.
Okay.
That's going to give you more time because the temperature of the concrete is cooler. It's going to slow it down with that. With this one here, as far as you don't leave it in the pail. If you leave it in the pail, it's going to start smoking in 15 minutes. Yeah.
So when you're rolling this out too, you want to make sure that you're going both ways, usually finishing the direction that you kind of walked yourself out of the garage. When you're doing your rolls, especially on the bigger jobs, you will usually be using an 18-inch roller cover, so you don't have to worry about roller lines or anything like that, but you want to have a smooth forward and back so that you're not kind of doing a W. We're going to use our 1/8-inch flakes, so it's a little
smaller. So what was
smaller,
actually then
but
sent out, but the invoices
same thing kind of we did over there. Anybody want to throw, or we're going to do the same thing? And again, this product comes in clear, but it also comes in a gray and a tan, I believe. So as a base, this one we just only had the clear, so that's why we're doing it. Otherwise, we would pigment it, but it slows it down to like a 5-hour scrape time instead of 2 2:30. So the other thing too, when you're doing these, if you have spikes, you're able to get on the flake if you walk very carefully going vertical. Anytime you do the quartz or anything like that, you don't want to walk on it with spikes because it'll create little dimples that won't go away. So we had that issue show up in some other projects that we were doing around our lab, and the contractor didn't work his way out the correct way, so he had to walk across, and then
If that happens,
if that happens, you're going to have to do another application and broadcast again.
another broadcast over top to fix it. Otherwise, if you throw your clear, even if you put a lot of clear, you'll see the dimples.
Yep.
So
the biggest thing is do not walk into silica. You got to walk your way out. And if you have to get something onto a surface that you can't reach, like say there's a wet spot you see, and you need more on it, and you're trying to throw it and you can't reach it, grab a dustpan, grab a shovel. That'll give you the more leverage to be able to get it there. I've even taken an electric blower in the past,
like a leaf blower,
in the top, and put a funnel on it and shot it through it. It's not a good way to do a floor, but it is a good way to get someplace further up. We got these down. Now we have time to talk. Okay, and we did this so that we can go through and show you how fast some of these are and be able to put the next top coat down probably by lunchtime. Okay, that's what we're doing. Yep. So let me cover these and then.
Yeah, I could go over the product.
Okay. All right, so with it, as far as the products that we're using here is one of the brands of Rust-Oleum, and it's Citadel. Now, Citadel is we consider more of our decorative line with some commercial, okay? I'll be getting into some of the industrial materials that we have, which we changed the name on it, but we're most likely going to be badging it also as Citadel later on. But with it, we have systems that are designed for residential, commercial, and also industrial. So with that, don't let any project go away from you. Just think, I don't have a system for that, or always go for it. Bring it up to Matt and Ed, and they'll be able to talk to you about other systems that are possible for it. And we will talk about some of them. So with it, the most residential common systems are going to be your garages, your basements, your rec rooms, things like that. In addition to that, we have floors that could be used in commercial settings such as convenience stores, grocery stores, retail stores, and the list goes on. And also then going into other locations, which I'll talk about in the next slide. And then the industrial, which would be anything from chemical plants to manufacturing and so forth. With it, we always like to go through and offer and have you present the systems to your customer as a good, better, and a best system. Never just offer just the best system, because the pricing is going to be higher and the customer is not going to understand. Give them the good, give them the pricing for the good, then explain other options once they've said, yeah, I want to go with it. And then you say, okay, well, you're going to go with this. That's a good system, but I can make that better. And this is what I would recommend and why. And then explain the differences between them. And then from there, with Citadel and Rust-Oleum, yes?
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask that you mentioned. The base coat here has a vapor barrier, right?
Actually, this one does. This is the Polyurea. The Polyurea does not. I'll talk a little bit more about those. Yeah.
We have a specific one, our Ultra Hydro Stop, which is meant for
an actual barrier. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This has moisture properties, but it's not a true barrier. We have a true vapor barrier, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Okay. So, but with it, with the Rust-Oleum and Citadel, as far as, we have market-leading technology constantly being developed, and then also great technical support and things that we do. With these systems, these resinous flooring systems, they are used in every single segment of the market, whether it be residential, commercial. And I like this slide because it does talk more about the locations where it can be used, such as healthcare, everywhere from lobbies, cafeterias, bathrooms, but also your surgical rooms, your laboratories. They are non-porous, seamless, and easy to maintain and sterilize. Okay. Commercially, everything from fire stations to police stations to jails to goes down the list. And again, some of the things that overlap, like locker rooms, restrooms, and so forth. Residential, we talked about that. The retail, you name it, it can be used there. Because they could be applied in very decorative applications, functional, as far as just depends on what their need is. Okay. Same thing with all the rest as far as and some of these locations, such as food processing service or the food service industry, they're mandated by government that they have to have these coatings on the surface because, again, they are seamless, they're non-porous, and they can be sterilized. Okay. And they're all compliant with regulations for incidental food contact. We've had them all tested, and they all pass for that. So with it, we like to make all these systems as easy to apply as possible. That's one of the things that's different about the Citadel and the Rust-Oleum brand is we always think of the contractor using the product because if it's a great product, but it's real hard to install and takes a long time, that makes it expensive. So we like to put in functionality, ease of application, and then also as far as repeatability, knowing that what you're working with, it's going to work the same way all the time. Okay. And then quick to service is really part of with the Citadel branding because that brand is actually known as the one-day floor type systems. So with that, that's what we're showing you on these these four applications we just did. So with it all starts, with it, as far as we consider ourselves a one-stop shop, we have everything from your polyurea base coats, your polyaspartic top coats, which are UV stable, your urethane top coats for extra durability, chemical resistance, abrasion resistance, the vapor moisture barriers. We actually have a couple, and I'll talk about those too. but the one that I really promote is the one that Corey was mentioning, which is a true vapor barrier. And then we have a ton of patch and repair products, which you're going to see some of them over there. And then all kinds of aggregates for anti-slip to increase that slip resistance, and also sometimes the wearability, the durability of the floor. And then, of course, here you can see they have all kinds of sundries, your roller sleeves, your cages, your pans, everything that you need, they have here to use it. Okay. And then from there, our type 2 is what we talk about as for our heavy industrial, such as epoxy mortar floors, urethane cement floors. Those are things which we would cover later in a training where we would actually go through and show you those. But we're not going to go through some of those today because it'd be too much for your stage of where you're at. But we are going to show you some of the commercial settings, but not the heavy industrial. Okay. Now, all these products are manufactured in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. That is our plant for all of our floor coatings. And we call it our Flooring Center of Excellence because in that location, we also have our support staff, our R&D department, in addition to the actual manufacturing, and also a distribution center. So it's actually, that number's wrong. It's actually 140,000 square feet now because we just acquired additional space in that building. And eventually we'll have the whole building. But that location there is a pretty cool place. In there, as far as 85,000 square feet of it is dedicated to manufacturing. 5,000 square feet is for our R&D and quality control lab. In there's, I believe, 6 chemists. I've been in a lot of the labs for manufacturers over the years. And when I walked into this one, I was quite impressed because I only knew what half the equipment was. The amount of chemists that are in there constantly working on quality control, checking every single batch of material that's made before it's packaged, and then also research, going through and trying to innovate and improve products. So with these flooring systems, it all starts off, especially with our one-day floors, with the base coats, which provide adhesion to the concrete. Okay, our broadcast media, which is either going to add durability and also sometimes decorative effects, such as the flake, to the system, and then a top coat. Okay, now that 3 application system, base coat, broadcast media, top coat, would be the basis for all systems, but that doesn't mean that's the only way you're going to do it. That would be the starting line for doing, say, a garage floor. From there, you may double this up, and I'm going to talk about that, adding more layers to increase durability, depending on what your customer needs. But with it, do you want to start? Want to talk about prep, or you want to do the prep?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Go ahead.
Okay. So obviously, yeah, for the flooring installation process, the first thing to do is inspect the floor. Is it pitted? Is it spalled? Is it good concrete? What's the hardness level of it? Hardness we can get into a little later. It's basically a little kit with scratchers on it called a Mohs hardness test. It'll tell you exactly which diamonds you need to use and stuff like that. So from there, once you figure out what the substrate is, what the moisture level is, then comes in the product system selection. So yeah, after that, the surface prep. So you'd use diamond grinding. Some guys use shot blasting, but a lot of people end up using trapezoids for their diamonds. After that, they just suck it up all the cream from the concrete with a vacuum, and then they continue with their surface prep. From there, you would do your patching and priming. The patching, as I stated, you will see on that table over there, whether it be quick crack repair, pivots, spalls, or if you have a trench you need to fill, we got a great mortar material as well. From there, of course, you install your product, and yeah.
Here's a complete thing about surface prep.
Yeah.
Want me to do it, or you want to do it?
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay. All right. So with it, as far as I'll just paraphrase that first sentence. There's no part of the flooring's success or failure that's going to be dependent upon, depending so much upon as the surface prep that you're going to do. So, long story short, don't skimp on prep. Do the preparation correctly, and then your flooring system is going to last properly. It's the same goes for any other trades. If you see a couple painters' t-shirts, if you were painting a wall, you wash the wall first. If it's gloss paint, you scuff it. Same thing with the floor. It's got to be properly prepped. Otherwise, you're going to have issues with adhesion or even the way it lays out. Okay, so don't ever skip on that. Now, the way that you're going to prep the floor is going to be dependent on the system you're going to put on top. Meaning, You're not going to destroy the surface of the concrete and give it a really hard scratch or shot blast profile if you're going to put, say, a clear, thin mill coating on top, or even a pigmented, thin coating on top, because you're going to see all that scratching and damage that you created. But if the material that you're applying is very thick, such as a double broadcast flake or quartz, or even our vapor barrier, you need to really open up that surface, and you're going to do a more what's called a concrete surface profile. You're going to put a higher profile or deeper profile than that concrete so that it can really anchor down. So that's what I mean by depending on the thickness of the coating. As far as the aesthetic value, I talked about that. If you're doing a grind and seal, you're not going to destroy the concrete. You're going to prep it, but you're not going to leave a lot of scratches in there, okay? And also the limitations. How much time do you have? There are times where you're not going to be able to do all that type of surface preparation that's really required. And in some situations, we have an alternative for you, which I'll talk about in a little bit, okay? So getting on to the bottom, the most common type methods of preparation is going to be your diamond grinding, okay, with a handheld grinder to do your edges, to a floor machine to actually profile and prepare and remove all the contamination off of the surface using a floor machine. And that's what you'd be using the diamond tooling, the trapezoids and so forth that are underneath the machine. And the profiles, yeah, Matthew's going to just talk about the concrete surface profiles.
Okay, so right here, this is coming from a company, well, an institute called ICRI. Basically, it stands for International Concrete Repair Institute. It lists a bunch of different types of profiles. You could see from a 9 all the way to a 1. 9 is more aggressive, 1 is less aggressive. So for our application, typically you want to get either a CSP 2 or 3.
Someone threw the fast gear roller sleeve in there.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so diamond grinding, you'd get that CSP of 2 as you saw on the front, and with shot blasting, you'd get a 3 and a 4, excuse me. Yeah.
Say you have a garage that you're going to do the flake system, and the garage has some oil spots.
Okay.
Oil has
I got it. So what you're going to want to do is you want to hit that with a citrus degreaser. We actually offer that as well. So you want to hit it with a citrus degreaser, wipe it down, see if it comes back up. Of course, after you wipe it down, you grind it again. If you still see it weeping up, you still got to hit it with that citrus degreaser and just keep repeating that process till it stops.
Yeah, you got to clean and remove the grease before, because the grinder is not going to take it off.
Yeah, it's actually an interesting thing. Me and him last year went over to a job over in Wisconsin, Waupun, Wisconsin. It was a old facility that was coating pipes with the same material as asphalt. And it was, they were in business for 40 years, and they just let the oil build up on top of the concrete. So we ended up scraping it off, and it was about 2 inches thick. So yeah, so that was scraped off. We ended up repeating that process of citrus degreaser to see if it would still keep coming up. And a great way to test too your adhesion is to get little Dixie cups, fill it with sand and epoxy, make a mortar, stick it on the ground, and then come back the next day, smack it with a hammer. If it comes off clean, you don't have good adhesion. But if chunks of concrete come off with it, that means you're good to go. So.
Okay. Now I do want to point out one thing. There's an asterisk now I just added to the CSP of 2. I found out just in the past month or so, month and a half, that ICRI, the International Concrete Restoration Institute, the company that made those standardizations of profiles, is going to do subcategories for CSP2. Because CSP2 just was grinding the floor. Well, if I grind the floor with 30 grit diamonds, or I grind the floor with 8 grit diamonds, or somewhere in between, the profile is different. It's not the same, okay? So they're actually doing subcategories for a CSP of 2.
Oh, that's great news.
I just learned that.
That's really good news.
Yeah, because it's actually important, because if we simply say grind the floor and your diamonds are 50s, you're actually starting to polish it. And your coating's not going to be able to penetrate as well as if it was a CSP 2 done with, say, 12 grit diamonds or 16 20s. It's a different scratch pattern, okay? So that's one thing they are changing. And then the shot blasting, you mentioned it, but there are times where you have to be a little bit more aggressive, okay? And does anybody here know what a shot blaster is? Okay. All right, a shot blaster, everybody knows what a grinder is, correct? The floor grinders? Okay. A shot blaster is a totally different way of profiling the concrete. Grinding has head pressure from the machine, diamonds, and they're scratching across the surface. you're going to remove the surface, but you're also driving that dust into the pores of the concrete, okay? So that's why when you get done and you vacuum it, it looks clean, but if you ran a real quick shot blaster over the top, you really see that now it's clean. And you see that, oh, there was dust in it. A shot blaster is, think of a fertilizer, a lawn fertilizer with a big hopper. And there's a wastegate, a little door that opens up when you pull the handle, okay? A shot blaster has very similar. It has a hopper with a wastegate. You're pulling it with the same type of bicycle brake handle to open that wastegate. And the BB, what's in the hopper are a bunch of steel BBs. And those steel BBs fall down through that wastegate into, as far as a enclosed chute. And inside there is a wheel that's similar to the paddle wheel of the old steamships, okay, where you have the paddles, okay? It's miniaturized and it's inside there. And those BBs fall down and this blast wheel is spinning extremely fast. And it takes those BBs and flings them down the chute to an open spot in the bottom of the machine where it pulverizes the concrete. So it literally, it blasts. That's why they call it shot blasting. It blasts the surface, pulverizes it, and it sucks up all the dust and the metal BBs, or at least most of them, back through the machine, back over the top. The BBs fall back into the hopper. The dust goes into the machine, in the vacuum. Okay, and it's a machine that's self-controlled, self-propelled usually. Small machines that are going to be like 4 or 6 inches are going to be self-propelled. But once you start getting to like a 10-inch and on up, those are all motorized, and you control the speed. So how fast the machine is rolling over the surface, the strength of the machine, and the shot is then going to determine how much of a profile you're putting on there. If you need a light blast, you're going to move it pretty quick. If you need to really go through and put a profile on that surface, you're going to move it a little slower. Okay? Hardness of the concrete, as Matt was talking about, is also going to dictate how fast you got to move it. But there's no cleaner way of prepping the surface than the shot blaster. Now, it has limitations. You can't take coatings off with it. You can't take thick adhesives off or membranes. You always need a floor grinder, a floor machine. It's just the shot blaster is something that you would use on brand new concrete. It has no sealer, maybe thin mill sealers or very thin like painted surfaces. It will take that off. But for the most part, you need the grinder first to take coatings off, take layers off, and then the shot blaster opens up the pores. Okay? All right, one other thing which I just recently added, and it was brought to my attention, we really didn't put enough attention onto this. Anybody here painters? Okay. There's a golden rule when you're applying coatings. And that golden rule is you never apply a coating, whether it's paint, sealer, resinous coatings, onto a surface when you're within 5 degrees of the dew point. What that means is that the temperature is close enough to where the humidity in the air is so saturated and it starts to turn into condensation, like dew in the mornings. You walk out and the grass is all wet. Your car, the windows and car all covered with water. That's because it hit the dew point and that moisture in the air condensed back to liquid water. If you're applying a coating, paint, sealer, anything onto a surface, when you're within that temperature range, you might be applying your coating, whether it be paint, sealer, resinous, on top of water that's on the surface. And that could cause blemishes, adhesion failure, blisters. It could cause blushing. It could cause all kinds of problems with your floor. So check the weather, find out what the dew point is. I recommend you get a hygrometer, which is, there's all types of ones you can use. This one's just a combination of temperature and humidity. It says that the humidity in here, it's actually gone up, 43%. When I first walked in, it was what, 32? Yeah, so now the humidity in the building's gone up to 43, okay? When that humidity starts getting way up and the temperature's coming down, you better know what that dew point is because you could cause problems. If you're applying and you know the dew point, you're within that, wait a little while. The temperature's gonna change. As soon as it goes up, you're good to go. You gotta get out of that 5 degree range, okay, of the dew point. So just check with on your app, what's the dew point for today, okay? And it'll tell you the temperature of where it's at, okay? So I just wanted to touch on that. Are there any more questions with applying within 5 degrees of the dew point? Okay. It's just simply knowing what the weather is, knowing what the humidity is, and then knowing, okay, what's the temperature now? Am I close to that at all? Okay. All right. So Matt already passed this around as far as the CSP profiles. Okay. That's just another example. It goes all the way down to number 9. We're going to always stay within the 2 to 4 range is where we're at. That 2 to 4 range is where we want to be. Okay. So typically, as far as for our polyureas, you're staying at a 2. That's all we recommend. I'll explain why in a little bit. With the epoxies, staying with a 2 in some cases, which is a ground surface, is okay, but we do prefer if you get to that CSP of 3. Okay. You're always going to have better adhesion with 100% solid epoxies onto a CSP of 3 than if you do with a 2. So a couple other things though is, we've been talking about moisture. If you're going to be doing a larger commercial job or any kind of commercial job, you really need to know how much moisture is in that concrete and how much is evaporating out of that slab, because all these coatings, except for a couple, have very similar limitations. They can only handle about 3 pounds of pressure evaporating for that concrete at any given point. If you have a slab that has a lot of moisture evaporating on it, you need to know. Now, most garages, guys don't check because the odds are you're going to be okay. But I still would recommend doing this preliminary test. It's only a preliminary. It's not going to tell you how much moisture is in the concrete and how much is evaporating, but it'll tell you if your slab is close to where you should check it or make some other decisions. And this meter here is the one I'm showing on the screen is a Tramex. There's many different manufacturers, Tramex, Wagner meter, there's a lot of them out there. But this meter here has probes on the surface, and the way you use this is you would put this on, you prep your concrete or prep a spot, you push it down on the surface and take the reading 3 to 5 times in that one spot. I forgot what the number is, somewhere around there, and you take your average. If you're staying below 5s, mid 4s and below, you're good. If you start getting close to 5, then you have some issues that you have to think about. But you're going to do this along the floor between 3 to 5 times within the first 1,000 square feet, and I believe it's a minimum of 3 after that. If you find a hot spot where you're reading high 4s or into the 5s already, you need to move over, do another couple tests, and determine where that area is. You might find a couple spots which are higher in moisture, and if it's commercial, I highly suggest that you do move into the next step. Residentially, you can go through and say, okay, this floor is reading high because there's no plastic, there's no vapor barrier under the concrete in garages. And if you're reading really high, you can go through and think, okay, is it a brand new slab of concrete? If it's brand new, you may have to wait for it to still evaporate some of the water from the original mix. If it's an older slab, why is it high? Is it a lot of groundwater coming through? You could look outside the building and see, are there downspouts that are dumping the water right next to the house? Okay, which that means it's going to flow under the floor. Sometimes it's telling the customer, get these downspouts so the water goes away from the house. Or is the grade of the ground so that when it rains, it's running down a hill to the house and going under the floor? Because sometimes they have to change that as well. Okay, so if it's a commercial though, and you're reading high moisture readings with your top side moisture meter, okay, again, it's only preliminary. It doesn't tell you how much is actually in there. These next 2 slides are going to do that. With it, there's 2 tests that are used in the industry. One is the old test, which is starting to fade away, which is the ASTMF 1869. That's where we actually use a little petri dish with calcium chloride, anhydrous calcium chloride in it, which is just a very dry material that sucks in moisture, okay? So inside there's a petri dish. You would grind the surface or shop blast, whatever you're going to plan on doing, and you take this disc, you open it up, take the tape off, take the lid off, put it underneath, save the tape and everything, because the whole kit was weighed. You're going to put it on the surface, and there comes with a dome. You put this protective dome. It has double-sided tape. You put it down, and you leave it for 72 hours, and then you come back, take the dome off, carefully pick up the dish. Sometimes that dish will have water in it, and you'll put the lid back on it, put the tape on it, and you're going to weigh it. It comes with a chart as far as you'll follow the formula. It'll tell you how many pounds of moisture are evaporating from that concrete within that 72-hour period. Okay, if you're at 3 pounds or less, you're good. If you're over 3 pounds, now you have some, at that point, have to really say how many pounds. Okay,
Before I get in, just wanted to interject really fast. Even if you're just doing residential jobs, it's always handy to have this, not only just because of testing relative humidity, but also you got to think about your competition. Like Mario once said in the past, most guys won't have this. So if you bring this out and you test the floor with it, you're going to stand out a lot compared to the other people that may have estimated the job before you.
Yeah, if you explain to the customer what you're doing, why you're doing it, it makes you look more professional than the guy who just came out and just gave them an estimate. Okay, it's all those extra things making you stand out and look more professional. So with that particular anhydrous calcium chloride test, you're going to do a minimum of 3 per the first 1,000 square feet and a minimum of 1 for every additional 1,000 square feet. Doesn't mean that's all. If you have like pipes coming through the floor, ejection pits, sub pump pits, stuff like that, put one over that way. By exterior doors, if the customer says, yeah, I sometimes see the concrete looks a little darker and damp, put one there too. Okay, you want to ask questions about the floor. Do they ever see the floor seems to be sweating? Or does it seem like, you know, if you look and it looks like there's mineral deposits, like you see a ring where it looks like a pool of water sat there and dried, and the customer says, no, there's never, well, that's a good indication, put one there, okay, because it might have high moisture coming through there. The one to the right, which is a destructive test, the one on the left is non-destructive. It sits on the top, measures how much moisture is evaporating. The one on the right, you actually have to drill holes in the floor. With that one, you're measuring, you got to know what the depth of the concrete is. Sometimes you don't know, and you have to take a guess as to what the average is. For, say, a garage floor, 4 inches. Okay, might be 3.5, depends on the contractors. But you're going to measure and drill down into the floor 40% of the depth, okay? Then you're going to vacuum out the hole, clean it with a wire brush, put a cap on it, and let it reacclimate back to the temperature of the concrete because you drilled a hole and you created friction. So you got to give it some time to set up. From there, you're going to do the minimum 3 for the 1,000 square feet and a minimum of 1 for every 1,000 after that. But the same thing holds true as I talked about with the calcium chloride test. You may do more, okay? Once you've gone through and done that, you're going to put your probes into the actual hole to read the actual moisture, the relative humidity in the concrete, okay? Now this is, again, this is testing you're doing if you're going to do a commercial project, not a garage floor for the most part. You could do it for a basement floor if it's a big floor, okay? But most guys will not do it for small areas because they basically gamble and they say, what are the odds? Well, the odds are low, but you always have to ask those questions on it.
Just to do a vapor barrier, just in case?
Yeah, but the thing is if you're going to do the vapor barrier and you want it to reach its maximum numbers, which I'll talk about, it's pretty, it does get more expensive and it does take a little bit extra time. So that's where you don't want to do it all the time, okay? But I'll get into that a little bit more. So with this one though, you're reading the moisture in the concrete, and that's going to give you a more accurate number of the moisture and the potential issues with that concrete. Yes?
You know, some of the app you're using a biscuit.
Yeah, there is an actual standard just to see if there's moisture, but that's going to tell you more like this. It doesn't tell you how much, it just tells you if there's moisture. Yeah, they're not quantitative, they're just telling you is there moisture or not, and that's actually what this does too. Okay, but this gives you an idea of how much, but not really a quantitative number, okay? So if you go through and you find that there is high moisture, okay, we do have a true vapor barrier. And what I mean by that is when you apply this properly, moisture is not going to penetrate that coating and damage the coating above it or the flooring above it. This could be used for hardwood floors, okay? All floors have an issue with moisture. If you put carpeting down, if you put hardwood floor, you put laminate down, you put VCT tile down, sheet flooring, they all have, pardon me? Yes, all floors have an issue with moisture. So if you have a floor that you found or you know somebody is doing flooring and they have to put carpet down on the floor and there's high moisture, you could be a solution for them, okay? And with it, this is our Ultra Hydro Stop. It's actually been tested for permeability, meaning allowing moisture to go through, and it's a category 1. It actually was rated at 0.09 perms or permeability coming through, and that test is an E96 test. If you ever come across some manufacturer saying, oh, they got a vapor barrier and they don't have any E96 testing, okay, or they tested it and they're saying it's reaching a Cat 2 or Cat 3, okay, it's not a vapor barrier. It's not a true vapor barrier. It's still allowing moisture to come through. This one is a true vapor barrier. It will hold back up to 25 pounds if you do the calcium chloride test, or up to, our technical data says 99% RH for moisture in the concrete. Personally, if I had a floor that was reading 99%, I wouldn't do it. Okay, that's, you're pushing the limits on that. But most floors won't. Most floors, if you have moisture, they're going to be in the high 80s or into the low 80s as far as when you have moisture problems, or they're going to be somewhere around 8 to 9 pounds. You very rarely will you be hitting a floor that has 25 pounds or close to 99% RH. Okay. All right. So with this one, if you're going to use this, and this is our 100% solids version, this has to be applied if you need those maximum numbers at 80 square feet per gallon and clear, okay, to reach those high numbers. If you're, now you ask a question, can I just use a vapor barrier for a floor and just, if this tells me I'm at 5, can I just sell a vapor barrier? If it's residential, sure. In that type of situation, we actually do endorse putting on the vapor barrier in color and broadcasting into it. But you're not going to reach those high numbers. We know that you're going to have benefits from it. We don't know how much because we've never tested it in that application. But guys have been doing it for years with very little issues. Okay. I wouldn't do that though for commercial, because if it ever failed and you had to redo the floor, it's not just the cost of redoing the floor, which can be really big. It's also their shutdown. So you're costing the customer time and money because now they have to shut down and they can't work. Okay. And that's an issue. So do your test the right way. And if you have it, if you have moisture issues, put it down clear at 80 square foot per gallon on a shop blasted surface. Okay. Yeah. And is it 4?
5.
Oh, is it really 5? Okay. So it's going to be a shop blasted CSP5. So it's an aggressive blast over the surface. Okay. All right. So everything I just talked about when it comes to mechanical preparation and how important it is, okay, we have a solution for non-vehicular, pedestrian-only areas. We do have a coating, a primer, which will adhere to properly prepped concrete, meaning it can't be dirty, it can't have contamination, it can't have sealers, waxes, oils, nothing like that on it. And it can't have a lot of latents, which is the dusty, soft cream on the concrete. That has to come off too. Mm-hmm. That you could generally clean and prep by scrubbing the floor with black pads and vacuums and sucking up a little water until it's a nice, sound, hard surface. Okay. At that point, then you can let it dry, and then you can apply our EP55, which is our primer for difficult to prep or unable to prep areas.
Yeah.
Okay.
The interesting thing about this, excuse me, what a lot of guys currently use it for with our application, but it's not just limited to this. Say you got asbestos tile the customer doesn't want to rip out, you can go over that with this EP55 so long as the tile is stripped of wax and everything like that. It means you still have to take care of the grout lines, but you can still go over it without having to worry about ripping it up. Another application for this is Mario stated in previous classes, think of anywhere where you can't have dust, and think of anywhere.
Yeah, it could be a data farm, it could be a medical facility, or they say that a data farm where they can't have dust that might get into the servers, and everything's in operation. Or it's a facility where they're manufacturing, it's very sensitive, and they can't have any dust. You go in there, you can wet prime, scrub, clean, wash, let it completely dry. But again, if there's sealers, if there's waxes you can remove with strippers, but sealers and painted surfaces, those now it negates that.
Yeah, like you said, server rooms, obviously, you get a speck of dust in a server, the whole thing is kaput. So you just go over the properly cleaned concrete with this product and continue with your floor system as usual. This is also a water-based epoxy. Typically about a 5-hour dry time, correct?
Yep.
And the interesting thing about this product, it has a recoat window of up to 5 days.
7.
Oh, 7?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
5 hours, 7 days.
Yeah, 5 hours, 7 days. That's it.
Now, what's different about this is all these other coatings have a very short recoat window. Our polyureas and polyaspartics and urethanes, they have a 12-hour window for the most part. Okay. Our epoxies, except for the fast cure, has a 24-hour window. Meaning, if you apply the next coat over the first coat you put down, and you're within that window, the actual coatings, it's not cured yet, so they're actually going to cross-link. So the molecules are going to link together, and you wind up with one thicker coating. If you're past that window, you can still put a coating on top, but then you have to sand it really well, take the gloss off so that it grabs into that texture, but they're not two coating. It's not going to turn into one coating. It's going to be two coatings stuck together. So it's not as good, and we don't recommend, we don't say that's okay. We want you to stay within that window, but there's sometimes you can't. So if you can't, you got to sand it, take all the shine off of it, and then you can put another coating on top. Okay. Same goes true with, one of the guys had asked me, if there's a coating there already, do I have to take it all off? It's best always to. Sometimes you can't though, okay? And in that situation, you have to clean it, make sure it's contaminant free, then sand it, then vacuum it, then wipe it, then you can go on top. And that's also where this comes in really, really well. It helps promote that adhesion, okay? This here, we actually got this technology from one of our sister companies out of Europe, because Rust-Oleum is part of RPM, and RPM has multiple company brands throughout the world, and we share technologies back and forth, and that's where we actually got this one from. So we're going to start now working with these products, these here. Our floor is not quite ready. We're going to start cleaning this up. The way you actually would tell, are you ready to start working on these, is you come over, you put your fingers on it, and you put a little bit of, start off with a little bit of pressure, and you want to make sure the sand's not moving, or the flake is not going to slide. If you put your hand on the flake and you put some pressure over there, it's not going to move.
Yeah.
Okay? Same thing with the quartz. It doesn't move. But don't put a lot of pressure to start with, because you might ruin the floor. You might damage that spot. Just put a little bit of pressure. They're not moving. A little bit more, and then you know they're good. All right? So I'm going to go through. I'm going to start scraping some of this up. So I like using... I'm going to turn these off. Okay. I like using this tool here. It's actually made for self-levelers. It's made to help move self-leveler, but this tool, I've been using it for decades for scraping flake and cleaning things up and a couple other odd things. It even works good as a dustpan. So I've been using it for that for years, and now the manufacturer, Midwest Rake, has been starting to promote it for scraping flake because it's been catching on more and more. Okay, so I like using it even for the sand to initially get the majority of it pushed into one spot. So I'm going to take this. Well, I'm going to show you how to do this flake here in a second. So I'm just going through, getting the bulk of this off.
Make it easy.
Okay. Can we have a bucket? Might as well just reclaim this and use it again. It's totally clean. Is it clean?
Yeah. Well, it's the same bucket.
Oh, it is the same one. Okay.
Shovel too.
Yeah. It's a multi-use tool.
Yeah.
Like I said, when they made this tool, they didn't realize how functional it was.
Easy.
Okay, so now we're going to use that same amount. You can reclaim that and use it as long as it's perfectly clean. Okay, and you're always going to wind up picking up probably a good 30% of your quartz back off your floor. Now for the flake, I like to use, I don't like to scrape it and then reclaim it. I like to take a leaf blower. This here, if I was going to do a garage, I would then use an electric leaf blower, not a gas, because a gas one could drip, causes exhaust. That exhaust can contaminate the surface. Electric, battery operated or plug, I don't care. I like to take my flake and blow it all into a corner, and then I'll carefully scoop it up and put it back in the box. Okay, I'll use a dustpan and or a broom or something like that, just to carefully, I don't want to break it. Now, once it's all collected, now I have to scrape my floor. Okay, so when I go to scrape my floor, we recommend scraping in 3 directions. North, south, east, west, and then an angle. That helps to break any kind of flake that might be standing up. I just had a customer call me and send me photos of the floor saying, yeah, they did their first floor and they're walking on it and you can hear it crunching, okay? And it feels really gritty. And I was like, okay, did you scrape 3 directions? This is, well, we scraped really 1. I was like, all right, first mistake. Secondly, did you really vacuum that surface? No, we sort of swept it. I'm like, I said, send me a picture. You sent me a picture, and it looks like it's a porcupine with all the flake just sticking up. He just created more work for himself. Don't skimp on this. Make sure you do a good job, because then you're not going to have to waste a whole lot of top coat, and you're not going to have a customer call you up and complain that they're walking on it and they cut their foot, because this flake will become really sharp. Once you put a clear coat on it, it makes it really, really sharp, and it stands up. It will cut a person's foot. So when you go to do this, assume I took all my excess off, okay? Blew it in the corner, we picked it up. Now I'm gonna take my scraper, I'm gonna go first north-south. Okay, so I went north-south, now I'm going to go east-west. It's hard to do it with such a big scraper in such a small little spot. Okay, so now I'm going to go on an angle. The other thing too is a brand new one like this, the edges are really sharp, and you can see it's brand spanking new. I say take it out to the sidewalk and just drag it around to take that sharp edge off, and it won't want to grab so much. It'll break everything off nicely, but if it's too sharp, it makes the first couple of times I use it, it makes it a little difficult to use it. Just run it on the sidewalk, clean off that real sharp edge, and then it works really well. Okay? All right, we're going to vacuum this up. If someone wants to scoop up that sand over there.
Yeah, we can just push it off.
We've already scraped this one, so this one's ready to go. These are all set, and we're going to be putting top coats down. But before we do, I want to talk about the systems that we're actually doing here, and then start talking about the products. Then we'll put those products down. Because we sort of jumped, got all this done, talked a little bit about stuff, and then really haven't given you a lot of information about what the system is, where it's recommended, how it's recommended to be put down. So that's what I'm going to tackle right now. So one of the things that we're going to start, we haven't done it yet, is our grind and seal. We spoke about it a little bit earlier. We were talking about during prep, as far as how you would prep the surface. Grind and seal is something which is actually becoming more and more popular now, and in requests. And it's something which it's very easy to do, but very easy to screw up if you don't do it correctly. When we talk about how do you prep based off of the finish and how thick and thin the coating system is going to be, this one's where you have to make sure when you prep that you don't prep so aggressively that it's going to show up and make the floor look bad. So unlike this is similar to the look of a polished floor, but with a protective coating that is much more, well, it's resistant towards solvents and acids and chemicals and oils, and goes on and on and on. A polished floor is not. If you have a polished floor and you spill something very acidic on it, caustic, it could be acidic, it could be alkaline, anything corrosive, it'll etch that section of the concrete and dull it all out. We've all seen it when we've walked into, say, grocery stores and went down the aisle of the pickle, where the pickles and all the canned items are, and you see a big splash like on the floor and it's dull. Well, it's because they probably broke a jar of pickles or something that was in vinegar, and it sat there and it dulled the floor down. That's because a polished floor is not sealed. Okay, things could soak into it. So when it's done when a polished floor is installed in a warehouse and a hydraulic line breaks on a forklift and spews the oil all over the floor, the hydraulic fluid, it soaks in and stains the floor. Okay, some locations are looking for the look of a polish, but the protection of a resinous coating, and that is a grind and seal. There's a lot of ways of doing. The one I like to show is what I consider our Mercedes of grind and seals, which is putting down a 70% solids polyaspartic and then a protective urethane layer over the surface to complete that floor. It's not the cheapest way to do it, but it's one of the best ways to do it. And there are less expensive ways where guys are putting acrylic sealer, topical sealer on it. Well, we all know that wears off pretty quickly. They're putting water-based epoxies on. Well, those will discolor because they're an epoxy, and they don't have the same durability as the system I'm going to talk about here. So if you were looking for something cheaper, you can, but the cost of this is very low, and once this price is priced out by Matt and Ed for you, you'll see it's pennies per square foot. The system here that we're going to do is one coat of the RG70, which is a 70% solids polyaspartic. Okay, the first coat is our primer. That primer coat's going to go down at about 250 to 300 square foot per gallon, based off of the concrete, how porous it is. Okay. From there, you can immediately then finish it with our Poly 1 HD, like we're going to do here today, or you can put down a second coat of RG70 to make it thicker, and then finally the Poly 1 HD, the urethane. Okay, so what makes two coats of RG70 and a urethane, why is that different? It's more coats, it's thicker. It's going to have more long-term wear and tear. So depending on how much wear and tear the customer is putting on the floor, they may opt to put that second coat there, but it also depends on budget. Okay, when you're prepping for this kind of floor, you are not going to prep it with 1620s or 12 grits or 8 grit diamonds. You're going to prep it with a 30. Okay, if you have coatings to take off, and say you have to take off thick systems like this, well, you may have to attack the floor with something called a PCD, that's polycrystalline diamond tooling, to strip off the coatings, but then you're going to grind it with a 30 to get rid of all those deep scratch marks. Okay, then as long as all the scratches are gone, you can't see any of them, and you're going to do that by cleaning the surface off, and you might, with a damp rag, wipe it to see if you see scratches or not. If you do, you can run 30s again without any weights, or you can run 50s, but don't go past 50 grit. You don't have to, okay? Our packaging says you can go all the way up to 120 on some of the coatings. You know, for this system, I don't recommend it. What does it take to go from 50 to 120? How many steps? For those that you don't know. It's going to be usually at least two more is what's going to take. 2 more times and passes with labor. Okay, what's the most expensive thing on the job site? Labor. Okay, so if you can eliminate those steps, why do them? Plus, you get a better adhesion and penetration of the coatings into that concrete when you put it when you only go to a 50. And a lot of times, if I have no scratches, I stop at 30. Why would I want to do another pass if I know that there's no scratches and my coatings are going to penetrate better? So if there's no scratches, stay with the 30s, okay? So that's the prep. Now the coatings, like I said, we're going to see when we put it down on the board over there, we're going to put down the clear RG70. I'm also going to show you a way of putting down, come on. You can also put those same coatings down, those clears, with pigment in them. So you can do a very fast polyaspartic direct-to-concrete system, which would be the RG70. That's the only polyaspartic that we recommend as direct-to-concrete, okay? And the reason is it's lower solids, it's very, very low viscosity, it's like water. You put it on the surface and it just soaks into the concrete and it anchors really well. That's why we recommend that one. All the other ones which we're going to use up here, we don't recommend as direct-to-concrete. because they're made as a grout coat over flake and things like that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Yep. All right. So when you're doing the solid color version, you're using that when the person's giving you 1 day to do the job, and they need it cured and be able to drive on it 24 hours later. Okay? So it's for fast turnarounds. It is a very durable coating, but we have other ways to do it that give you more time, but this is a very fast system. Okay? Done the same way. It can be done with 1 coat of RG70 pigmented directly concrete, or 2. I like going with 2 when I'm doing pigment to make sure it's a solid color. And then I'll put my clear, or you could do a pigmented version of the Poly 1 over the surface. That'll make more sense when we start showing you, okay? The system here, which is the first one that we're doing here, the stout or shop floor. It's a silica broadcast resinous coating. It can be done with different resins, but we're showing you here using the Polyurea 350 because it's a fast system. From there, you can put the top coat on it in color, and it's a good solid finish floor. You can put another coat of polyurea over that, broadcast sand again, and do 2 layers of sand and make it even more durable. And that, if I did that, I would do that like in a parking garage, where I use the polyurea, broadcast sand and rejection, clean it up. Polyurea again, broadcast sand and rejection, clean it up, top coat it. I may or may not put a urethane on it, okay? But that system is going to be flexible. It's going to have great impact. And that is actually, we'll write a specification for a parking garage that way all the time.
And how long are you waiting between put another polyurea?
That's the good thing about this. You're literally waiting 2 to 3 hours.
Like right now?
Oh yeah, we're going to put yeah. Yep. So literally as soon as it sets up, that's what's different from a park deck garage. The elastomeric coatings is that those you have to do multiple layers as well, but it takes longer before you can put the next step on top. So you got to do a section, leave, come back, do a section, leave, come back, do a section, and then you're done. Here, depending on the size of the job, you might finish it in 1 day, okay? You might finish it in 2 days, but the other one you're not going to finish in 2 days because it takes multiple days, okay, to do it. It's also much more durable. It does have the flexibility, not as much as elastomeric coatings, okay? Those membranes have more, but these adhere a lot better. The other ones will delaminate and peel off like, we've all seen in parking garages where it's coming off like sheets, okay? This won't do that, okay? So with this one, we're showing you a single broadcast, okay? Where would you use it? I would use it in compactor rooms for residential buildings, like apartment buildings, or commercial. I would use it shipping dock areas. Oh, sí. Yeah, los cuerpos mecánicos, sí. Yep. Porque tiene mucha resistencia a impacto y que eso no se va a rayar tan fácil. Okay. Y tiene también antirrelevante, porque la sílica que está adentro de los resinas. Okay. He just asked as far as if it was also recommended for a mechanical room. And I said, yeah. I said it offers great durability, resistance, slip resistance, and all that. Okay. So depending on how you do it, you know, we're going to make different recommendations. Why would I do a single broadcast over a double? Depends on how much durability the customer needs. It also depends on how much they're willing to spend. Offer them the good, the better would be a double broadcast. If they decline the double, you have them sign off that they didn't want it. So if something happens later and they needed the double, you have it in writing. You offered, they declined it. I never used to have them not initial that they declined it. I learned that trick after a while because, hey, you offered it, okay? So that's that one. So that's also done in service bays for all cars, for car services. It's done in anywhere where they need a good, durable, slip-resistant finish. That's what we recommend. The color quartz, which is right next to it, we usually see it in locker rooms and bathrooms, commercial locker rooms, commercial restrooms, bathrooms. We'll see it in doctor's offices, in hallways, in a lot of areas where they again need durability because it's the same durability as a solid color, as a color quartz. It's just decorative. So it costs more for that color quartz versus a bag of sand. The bag of silica,
About $12.
$12.
And then
a bag of color quartz, same
about
weight.
30.
Yeah, about $30. Big difference.
Yeah.
Okay, it's for the color quartz is what you're paying for.
And another application too for the colored quartz that's been used a lot are pool decks as well.
How much does it cost per square foot when guys? Oh, para comprarlo o para venderlo? Yeah. So what are you guys selling that for? Este o de color? De color o de cuarzo? O este aquí?
Well,
Oh,
it's going to be a lot cheaper. Yeah.
$6.50, $6.
The stout floor?
Oh no, the south floor probably around $5.50.
Yeah. Cinco. Todo depende si es doble o singular. Si, if it's a double broadcast? Okay. Pero todo depende en la cantidad. Si una muestra, si una obra está muy grandote, el precio va a ser menos por pie, porque vas a hacer mucho y no necesitas ganar tanto por pie porque tienes mucho para hacer. La cantidad está ahí. Para una obra muy pequeña, el precio por pie se va a estar muy alta. Okay. All right. So the color quartz is also done in, like I said, areas where they want something decorative but durable. So that's done a lot in doctors' offices and in office areas and things like that because it has the durability. Okay. And that could be also a single broadcast. We don't recommend single broadcasts. Guys will do it, but we don't because we don't want that discoloration coming through from below. We like a double, so it's solid color of resin of the quartz, and you don't see any signs of the concrete or the color that was used in the base. That's why we recommend. Now, the first one we can do single because we're using pigmented resin. Okay, so it doesn't matter. The color quartz, you should always do it in a double. Okay. Del flake, what is flake going for?
$5.50, $6.
Para un garaje o algo así, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, es el precio que están vendiéndolo.
Well,
para ustedes, para comprarlo, es
your cost,
menos de dos.
Yeah, we talk about your cost of materials compared to what you can charge.
Yeah. His price is for that? Is well, that's for this one with the epoxy. What's it with the polyurea?
Polyurea, it'll be under $2.
Yeah. Si vas a usar el polyurea, es menos de $2. Pero si vas a usar este epóxico, porque es especial, el precio es un poco más, pero es $2.50 para usted, para este. Yeah, with this one they're selling $5.50?
Yes, $6.50.
Yeah.
Okay. Todo depende a cuál epóxico vas a usar. Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason why a lot of guys use the polyurea, not only because it's flexible, but it's also not only saving them money on labor, it's also saving them money on square footage because poly 350 goes a lot further than epoxy would.
Yeah.
So
okay. So getting onto the quartz floor, the flake floor. The 1/4-inch flake is the standard way it's always been done. You can use different flake though. The flake also comes in 1/8 inch, like this one. It comes in a hybrid blend. You can get it at 1 inch, 1/2 inch. Almost nobody does that. Or you can get it in the most commonly 1/4, 1/8, but you can also get it in 1/16 and even 32nd, I believe, right?
I've seen 1 inch before. It was wacky.
Yeah. So the reason why it is available, when it came out in the 70s, okay, it was designed to look like terrazzo.
Yeah.
That's why the flake is larger, available in larger sizes. Now they have it where they combine the different sizes together, and it looks totally different. It looks more decorative. It's a nicer looking finish. With this, the standard garage floor is what we're doing here. Base coat polyurea or a base coat of epoxy with then your flake, and then you clean it, scrape it, vacuum it, and then we put our grout coat, which is what seals the flake in, and that's it. That's our good floor for garages. That doesn't mean that floor is good enough for, say, a grocery store or a commercial fast food location because they have a lot of traffic in one spot over one traffic path. Garage, residential, what are they doing? They drive a car with, pneumatic tires. They drive it in, they back it out. That's all they do. They don't get the same wear and tear. So you don't need the same level of durability for a residential garage. But if you have high concentrated traffic, whether it be foot or start getting into vehicles, you have to start increasing, and you may have to do a double broadcast. At the very least, you would put a urethane top coat over the polyaspartic. Okay? So that's where we get into these applications here. The standard coverage for the Polyurea 350 is going to be 225 to 250 per square foot for your base coat. Again, that depends also how good the concrete is. If it has a little bit of pitting here or there, you may not get the 253. You might be at 225. But this coating cannot go down thick. The thickest you could put it down is 100 square foot per gallon, and that's if you're going to throw sand into it or color quartz. All right. Your flake is going to be 1 pound for every 6 square feet. Some will go 5. It all depends on the size of the flake. The smaller the flake, the higher the amount. Your turnaround time of scraping, depending on the speed, is going to be 2 to 4 hours. Some guys will use the faster material in a little bit warmer temperature so they can scrape it in less than an hour or about an hour. Don't start doing that, though, until you've done a lot of them and are familiar with it. Okay. And then your top coat application would be either, what we're going to use is our UL80, which is an ultra low odor polyaspartic. It still has solvent, so remember that if you're working indoors, turn off ignition sources, have good ventilation, put on a respirator. Yeah. Just because you can't smell it doesn't mean it's not there. It's there. Okay. Some people will say it smells like silly putty. Remember the silly putty? Some people say it smells like that. I actually agree with that. Some people don't smell it at all. And are a few people which is still be they're ultra sensitive to odors. And they'll notice it. But very few do.
I'm a little bit different than him when it comes to the smell. I think it smells like green apple.
Yeah.
But
I actually had one other person tell me that too.
Told you.
Yeah. So, and it's rare, but most people say silly putty.
Yeah.
All right. Any questions on these systems that I described so far? Okay. All right. So it all comes down to your Polyurea 350, which is your base bond coat to the surface, flake, and then your grout coat on the top.
I could go over that real fast.
Okay.
Oh. So like I said previously, earlier in the day, what a lot of these guys are doing, and they're good at, are doing a bunch of garages in one go. If you ever seen big companies in and out in one day, doing several garages a day, this type of system is what they'd be using. A polyurea, broadcast medium of their choice, usually flakes, and then a top coat of polyaspartic. And if you time it right, you can do multiple garages in one day and really bring in the bank. So
that's tougher to do. Most have one crew, one garage. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Because there's repairs and patching and the grind has to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could if you wanted to work till 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Okay. So now I'm going to start talking about the polyureas and the polyaspartics and the speeds. I mentioned earlier, there's an Arctic for temperatures that are under 50 degrees. 50 degrees, I think, is actually pushing it. It's very, very fast at 50. I would stop in the lower 40s with that one. That one is a very quick setting, but you could use it down to 0 degrees or even, that's what we say. I know guys have done it colder. Why someone would want to be doing a garage when it's 0 degrees, I don't know. But part of my territory is also Minnesota, and there's a lot of guys that do. And even here in Illinois, I know guys that will be out there in double digits. They stop in single digits, but they'll be out there in 12 degrees, 15 degrees, and they're doing garages. Okay, they never stop. Our winter blend is designed from 50 degrees to 70. Okay, I have a lot of clients that I work with. They have customers that go with the winter up until the low 80s. Okay, they'll take it up even higher because they're scraping it in an hour. Okay, sometimes 45 minutes. It's that quick. But they have, they're working like a machine. The two guys, and they're working. They have everything set up, stage ready, and they've been doing it so long. They know how to put it down. And they're making a bunch of small batches. Mm-hmm. Our summer blend is designed from 70 degrees on up to 100. I have to say, when you're going into the 90s, it does become very, very fast as well. They are adding solvent to it to slow it down a little bit. The solvent that they generally add when it gets really hot is not acetone, it's MEK. That's the only other solvent you can use with the polyurea is methyl alkyl ketone or the acetone. Just stick with the acetone, you'll be fine. I doubt if you're going to be doing garage floors with polyurea at 100 degrees. Okay?
Yeah, I think I heard actually MEK might be banned soon from the EPA.
Well, it might be. Yeah. I mean, it's extrally nasty. That's why we recommend acetone.
Yeah.
But it's a slower evaporating solvent.
Yeah.
We all know how acetone is. You get it on your hand and it evaporates, and it feels really cold because it's evaporating so quick. Other solvents aren't. Don't be putting salt on your hand, by the way.
Another thing too, as with any product, with the Poly 350 specifically as well, make sure it is in a temperature controlled environment. Don't use it if it's been sitting out in the sun. Make sure it's cooled down, or else it'll set up fast on you.
That's with any of these products, yeah. Actually, all the resins.
Yeah.
All right, with our top coats, we're going to be using UL 80. That is our ultra low odor. We're inside, so we're going to use that one. But our other options would be our RG80. That used to be our most popular polyaspartic. Now the UL 80 is, because it works just as easy as the RG80 slow, but it has no odor where the RG80 does. Okay, some people like that one better. We still make it. We also have another version, which I'll talk about in a minute. But with the polyaspartic, RG80 comes in slow, fast, and super slow. You'll never use super slow up here. That was made mainly for areas down by the Gulf Coast where it's very hot and humid, because humidity accelerates these polyaspartics and polyureas. So we have our super slow. With exception of that one, all of the polyaspartics can be driven on in 24 hours. They all cure in 24. Okay. The super slow is designed for above 90 degrees and high humidity. The slow is from 50 to 90. And if your customer wanted to drive on it in 24 hours and it was below 50 degrees, you got to use the fast. Otherwise, tell them to stay off of it for 48 hours. Okay. Now with that, some guys will use the summer, even in the wintertime, because it's going to cure. It just takes longer. So if you're not looking to do the garage in one day and you want something that's a little slower, use the summer. Even in colder temperatures, it still sets up. You just can't do it in one day. You have to come back the second day. Okay? And the reason they do that is because they can't use an epoxy. Once it drops below 40, at 40 and below, they don't cure. So that's why they use the polyurea.
Yep.
All right. So with the performance base coats, you've heard us talk a lot about the Poly 350, and then we also talked about the Ultra Hydro Stop. I mentioned that one. What makes those different and really so good is all these bullet points I'm pulling up here. All right. So.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep.
Yeah, so as I stated, again, multiple times about the Poly 350, it is especially flexible compared to epoxy. So it has an elongation of 198%. Now what that means is it can stretch 198% of what it was put down, and it'll spring back. Whereas epoxy, it's rigid, where if there's any stress or movement, it'll crack. This won't do that.
Okay. ¿Qué es la diferencia de ese de 1 a 1?
No, este es 1 a 2.
Ya, ese es 1 a 2. ¿Qué es la diferencia?
Porque son productos diferentes.
¿Es mejor?
Es mejor en varias maneras, pero hay there's occasions, hay tiempos cuando necesitas usar el epóxico, porque el epóxico especial, que no todos, pero el especial tiene la protección de la humedad, a donde el polyurea no puede ofrecer ese. Pero el polyurea no se hace duro, ¿ok? El epóxico sí se hace duro. No, este aquí es todo polyurea. Estos aquí. No se hace duro, se queda flexible, a donde no se va a quebrar. Si algo se lo pega muy duro, el epóxico se puede quebrar porque es duro. Pero el polyurea se queda un poco flexible. So puede trabajar con impacto más que un epóxico. Okay. También si se abre una grieta que está muy pequeña, pero se mueve un poco, el polyurea se va a mover con la grieta, no se va a continuar. Con el epóxico no tiene flexibilidad, so se va a quedar y vas a mirar la grieta. Si se mueve más de doble, se va a romper, okay? Porque no se puede mover doble la profundidad.
Okay, so yeah, so what we normally stock here is obviously the summer. For the summertime, it comes in clear, tan, and gray. So it comes pre-tinted. You can also tint the clear yourself. Just remember, the more color you add, it has a tendency to make the cure rate a little bit longer. Yeah, with this, your broadcast window, so once it's down, you have 45 minutes to throw your broadcast medium of choice into it, whether it be flakes or silica sand.
From the time you start mixing it.
Yeah, from the time you start mixing it. Thank you for the clarification. But yeah, you can recoat it in 2 to 4 hours. Again, mixing ratio is 1 to 2. And yeah, the most you can, well, at the minimum, you can get about 675 square feet per kit. That's at 225 square feet per gallon. But the most you want to bring it out is 250 if you have to.
Okay. The other thing about it is this product bonds to the concrete mechanically
and chemically,
but also chemically. Okay. Epoxies don't do that. So se va a pegar arriba del hormigón con la profundidad que vas a poner es mecánico, pero también químico, porque hay químicas adentro de este producto que van a trabajar con la sílica adentro del hormigón y se van a juntar y se hace un uno. Y no es fácil para sacar la aplicación, porque está pegado químico y mecánico. Los epóxicos son nomás mecánicos, okay? La otra diferencia.
Another thing too, 3-gallon kit of this stuff is typically all you're going to need to cover, to fully base a 2-car garage, depending.
Yeah.
So
you use less product with it.
Yeah.
This is a thinner application. It also doesn't soak into the concrete the way the epoxy does. So with an epoxy, you have to put it thicker because it soaks in. That's the only way it holds. The polyurea, it doesn't soak in the same way because it's a thicker product, but it chemically fuses to the top. Okay? Ultra Hydro Stop?
Yeah. So this is the Ultra Hydro Stop that we talked about earlier. We didn't put it down, but it comes in a 5-gallon kit, and each kit will get you about 80 square feet per gallon. You get about 400 square feet out of the kit. At 100, you'll get about 500. But like Mario said, if you want to get the full usage out of it, put it down clear at 80 square feet per gallon. That way, if you can get the maximum moisture vapor transmission blockage at about 25 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Another thing about this, which is comparable to the polyurea, is the curing time. It will cure in about 3 to 4 hours, depending on the temperature. And the great thing about that, too, you could also broadcast into it. So you're killing 2 birds in 1 stone, again, saving labor costs, which is huge. Yeah, and it stops up to 25 pounds of moisture vapor transmission.
Only over a shot blasted surface and clear at 80%.
Yes.
Okay? But you still get benefits if you have a moisture area like in a basement, and you say you have humidity, you know there's humidity, but it's not like crazy high. Guys they'll put it down as a base coat and they'll flake into it, and they know they have security of good adhesion. But that's why we do recommend testing it, because you still don't know how high it was.
And the great thing about this product, which differentiates the past, you would have to do your vapor barrier and your base coat in 2 separate steps. Again, this does it all in one.
Yep.
So,
all right. So our PLE epoxy, we're going to start using that this afternoon. We're going to use that on the 2 boards that are right here. Actually, 1 board. We're going to put some down as a solid color. Tomorrow, we're going to put a texture coat over the surface. So we're going to show you the PLE in color. Then we're also going to use some PLE in the metallics, and then some of our SLE. So with the PLE, you want to continue or?
Oh, you already got it.
Yeah, I'm just forced to have it. It's our general workhorse epoxy. When I actually took part in not the formulation, but the work trials of this coating, and it was designed to be to work as a base coat for flake, quartz, silica assault. It was designed to be a general purpose. You could use it for patching. You could use it for just coating and broadcasting into. What the chemists actually wanted formulating, though, was something that worked a lot better than we thought. And the reason is because of our buying power. We buy premium quality resins and catalysts, the Part Bs. So it wound up being that we used the same quality, high-grade raw products as some manufacturers use for their best quality epoxy. And we were just buying that for our general purpose. So it winds up being we're using a cycloaliphatic resin, which that means automatically, when you hear the aliphatic in it, it means it automatically has some UV resistance. It's not our best, but it does have some. And then we also found out the guys start using it for metallics and a lot of decorative coatings, which really surprised our R&D team, research development team. And so they did actually tweak it and add a little bit more a little bit more UV resistance to it than they originally started with, because it's being used in so many ways. So a lot of guys will use it for metallics, not for the light colors like white and frost and light grays, the real light colors, but they'll use it for all the dark colors, okay? For the light colors, you're gonna wanna use our SLE, okay? Now, this product also, it has a 30 to 35 minute pot life. That's at 72 degrees, okay? What that means is the time that it takes to double in thickness. That's a pot life, okay? It could be applied anywhere from 80 square feet a gallon down to, well, we say 100 on here, I don't know why, but guys would generally use 150. Sometimes as a thin primer coat, they'll stretch out to 200, but it's very versatile. We also do have it in the fast version, which we use here, and we already scraped it. But this normally, standard set, takes 8 hours to set up and cure to become tack-free. So if you're doing a big, large area and you're not looking to do the next coat the same day, perfect coating.
Yeah, here are the top coats. RG70, like Mario stated, is a 30% solvent polyaspartic. Like the mainly used for grinding seals. We top coated with Polyurea 1HD, which we'll go over later. The RG80 is typically used, as well as the UL80, over flakes or broadcast systems. Same with ET80. The only difference between RG80, UL80, and ET80, RG80 is a stock standard polyaspartic with 20 to 25 minutes of working time around there. The UL80 is the ultra-low odor variant of it, which also has the benefit of an additional 10 minutes of working time, bringing it up to 35. And the ET80, I believe the working time is about 40, correct?
Sorry, ET80? It's about 35, 40. Depends on how hot it is,
Yeah,
how humid.
how hot it is, of course. Then the Poly 1HD is actually the Polyurea urethane hybrid urethane coat. The Poly 3 is the water-based urethane coat, and the Poly 4 XT is actually a ceramic, correct?
It's not a ceramic, it's polysiloxane, but it's similar to what they're promoting as a ceramic type coating. Even those aren't actually ceramic, but that's what they're comparing it to.
Yeah, so basically it's the same as a Poly 1 HD, except it's even more resistant to abrasion.
Correct. Yeah. The Poly 1 HD actually has a little bit more chemical resistance, but when it comes to abrasion resistance, the Poly 1's great. It's good.
Yeah.
The Poly 4 is really good. It's our best.
With this system here on the ground right now, it's Poly 1 HD. It's been down for 3 years. Forklifts driven on it, beat to do a pulp, and it's still shining.
Yep. Just shows its durability. Also, the RG70. The only thing you guys stock is the gloss, but it is also available in satin. So yeah, and it's actually really nice if you were doing a flake floor in, say, a 3-season room, or yeah, I know they do it, patios and so forth, and they don't want that high gloss. You'd grout it with the RG80 or UL80, and then put a thin coat of the RG70 on top. It takes all that shine off, and it's a true satin. There's no additive. It comes satin. Okay.
Are they still throwing the Poly 1 over it?
No. In that case, if you want that satin finish, you leave it like that. But we do recommend the Poly 1 HD on top. Okay. So just recap it, what we talked about. The workhorse of our RG80, it's a 1-to-1 polyaspartic. Okay. Now we're talking about top coats, not the base coats. Top coats are 1-to-1 for the polyaspartics, all of them. Okay. They cure out in 24 hours for vehicle traffic, except for super slow, but you'll never use that here. And then it's 1 coat coverage for your chip. If you were doing something indoors, you might give it a 2nd coat. If the person wants a really smooth floor, you can give it a 2nd coat. Okay, as long as it's within 12 hours. These cure fast, so you have to apply a 2nd coat within 12 hours. Okay. The UL80, we talked about that one already. It is a 1-to-1 as well. It's just ultra low odor. That's what it is. And that's what we're going to be working with since we're indoors.
Extra working time too.
Yeah, a little bit more working time. It's similar to the slow. Yeah. All right, so now we're going to start putting down our resins. We're going to start by putting on our top coats onto these here, so you can see how they're all finished in one day. So we're going to start off with our polyaspartics. And then we'll jump into our epoxies, our solid color that we're going to put here. And then we'll start doing our metallics, and then we'll be done for the day. Okay, so when you get the kits of polyaspartic and you're buying a 4-gallon kit, you get 2 sleeves, okay? The mixture you need to properly mix these have been sitting, or when you buy it brand new, they've been sitting for a long time. What's in here is a blend of different chemicals and resin. So as they sit, you can have some separation of chemicals with any product and anyone's product. So we always recommend pre-mix them before you use them for the day. Once you pre-mix them for the day, you don't have to remix them again, except for mixing them together, okay? So we are gonna pre-mix this. And the mixture that we're using is a narrow spiral with a very long shaft. It's the only one that actually fits in through the actual opening and reaches down to the bottom. But the resin side, you have to mix it. Shaking it won't work.
And then go from that one to that one. Otherwise, it's
I've actually seen what happens is it gels up. It won't get totally hard.
Again, you can use it both ways. Mario likes, especially with a stiff blade one, being able to push the product around into the corners. What we want to do is make sure we have downward pressure on it and we're pulling back. We don't want to leave any puddles.
Especially around the outside perimeter by your walls. Get all those puddles out of there.
You know you're doing it right if you see the stick bending.
Yeah.
Especially when it's the metal steel ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see that we're kind of grouting it like this. When we are doing this tight squeegee, we're leaving enough material and we're not leaving any real excess behind that could leave any exposed areas.
Right down the center.
Right down the center.
Oh, you got most important thing, like we've been saying, is get good even coverage. The pressure you're putting down is what's helping push and seal in the surface.
So this is the other thing you can run into kind of when you get to the end. You want to just keep moving to your next section. If you do end up having excess kind of on the end here, don't push it back into the field. We're probably just going to leave it right here for the time being, but you can tape down a trash bag or something like that, have a piece of duct tape or cardboard, and you pull it off onto that, and then continue on your way, because you don't want to...
No, we're going to leave it.
We'll just leave it.
So, you don't want to push it back over the surface because it'll create a thicker slick spot that'll look different. Always pull off. Also, as you start getting to a low puddle like that, and you're continuing with your floor, and you need to pour another batch into it, don't pour it into the dry section of the floor. Always pour it into the floor where you're already sealed, into the remaining puddle that's there to keep the consistency of the how liquidy or how thick the material is getting. It keeps a nice uniform finish on the floor. Because if you pour it right next to it, you'll wind up with shiny and dull spots.
Oh, okay.
So, and you'll see the difference too as I'm pulling this. The quartz is a lot thirstier. So you're going to use more material on the quartz than you are going to be on the flake. Just because there's more areas to
yeah, there's deeper
absorb.
recesses between each grain.
So the other way you can do this, similar to what we were kind of pulling earlier, is you could have your puddle across the top, and then you'll have more down the side here, and you're going to make your sweeping motions back and forth, not leaving any trail behind, so that you're not...
and whoever the assistant is who's making the mix and pouring them out is also the person generally that's going to be ready to roll. But they want to look at the floor too, because the person who's squeegee is looking at it from one angle, and sometimes you can't see where there's a puddle.
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
So we're going to go, and do the same lengthwise.
So you want to roll it like that?
So if this is the front of the garage, I'd want to roll back and forth, and then I'd want to roll this way out. So whatever way they're going to see it coming in, you want it, that'll be your finish roll out.